Hey, this is the Sounds on Vinyl show, the only show on the planet that will make your fucking ears bleed. My name, as always, is Phil Boyer, and from across the vast open seas where the Vikings once ruled is my brother from another mother, Professor Rockstar Extraordinaire, lead singer of all bands past, present, and future, except for the band we're going to talk about today because they tried a new lead singer. They tried a different lead singer and it didn't fucking work. They had to bring the other guy back, Mr. Mike Svensson. Mike, how the hell's it going out there in the land of your very own record store? How's that
Oh,
shit going?
that's going really good, man.
Awesome.
Every week I meet some really cool people and we spin records, drink coffee, shoot the shit, talk about music, talk about life. And I mean, I cannot still believe that I got my own record store. So it's, it's all good, man. It's all
It's
good.
like the ultimate fika,
It is.
right?
It is
We
the
talked about
ultimate
that
peak.
before. It's like the
Oh yeah.
ultimate fika.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Doesn't get any better than that.
No. No.
All right. Well, later on in the show, we're going to be talking about vinyl because obviously the show's called Sounds on Vinyl. And we're
Oh
going to be
yeah.
talking about original pressings versus re releases and the sound quality and all that kind of fun stuff. But first, we're going to talk
Mhm.
about a little band you probably heard of, right, Mike?
Oh yeah.
And
It,
what record and band are we talking about today?
we are talking about Judas Priest, British Steel, baby.
There we go.
All right. To give you a background, it's released in 1980. And the band tried to reprise the commercial sound that they established with Killing Machine. This time, though, they abandoned the dark lyrical theme. When Rob Halford said that the band was inspired by AC/DC on some tracks after supporting him on the European tour back in 1979. British Steel was recorded in December of 79 in Tittenhurst Park in the home of former Beatle Ringo Starr. What do you think about that?
There you go.
Judas Priest and the Beatles.
There we go.
I mean, could it be any better? I don't know. I don't
I
know
don't
what
think
that
so.
means even, but still, it was
I,
recorded there.
it was recorded there. Well, that's all
I,
that's all that matters.
I wonder if Ringo Starr was a fan of Judas Priest, or he was thinking, "What the hell is going on here?"
I don't know. That'd be interesting. That'd be
Oh, it would
interesting to
be.
see.
Yeah,
Like all those early guys like the Beatles and like when Sabbath and Priest came on the scene
yeah,
and like what did they think of these guys, you know?
yeah.
You know, like
Recorded in
Maiden stuff?
I mean, if he was involved in somehow, or he had just sold his house and turned it into a studio, or he had a studio, I don't know. I mean, the facts are so small, but it wouldn't be fun. I mean, to know if Ringo Starr was even there, that would be awesome. I had to look into that,
Mhm.
thinking that he was involved in writing music for the Beatles and that poppy stuff, and all of a sudden these guys show up. Could you imagine him going,
Yeah.
"Holy shit, what the hell is going on? Fuck me.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought I heard it all, but now,
Yeah,
man,
yeah.
jeez."
Mhm. Yeah, you gotta wonder, like, did these any of these guys feel threatened by, you know, the talent of some of these bands, even though, you know, they're talented themselves, like,
Yeah.
you know how musicians are and their
Oh
egos
yeah.
and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. We're fucked up.
All right. Well, hey, British Steel. Now,
Mhm.
is this in your top 3 Priest records, where does this fall for you?
I
Is it in your top 3
Oh
or is
yeah.
it yeah?
It is. It is. For me, it's Screaming for Vengeance, Defenders of the Faith, and British Steel.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, you put Defenders up there.
Yes.
Interesting.
Oh,
That's a great
yes.
record. That is
It
a great
is.
record.
It
And you know
is.
what? It's weird. I with Priest, I tend to gravitate towards certain records, and it's usually the old stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Defenders and even British Steel, even though that's older, I never really gravitate to those two records, even though they're
Oh.
both awesome. Defenders, like one of my favorite songs is like the Sentinel.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that one.
Yeah.
That's a great song. But yeah, for some reason I never go to that. But
Mm.
British Steel.
Oh, yeah. Should we
Now
break it down?
let's break it down. But first,
Yes.
it's important to understand that there were two versions released of this. There was one that it was a re-release, I believe, that has a completely different track listing. The order
Mm-hmm.
of the tracks are a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So that which is interesting because it does kind of the re-release I feel is a better order of the tracks because of and we'll get to this. I'll mention this a
Mm-hmm.
little bit later, but um I feel like it's a better order. You know, this one starts with Breaking the Law, which
Mm-hmm.
we all know and love, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like that may not have been the best choice to kick that off with. Whereas the re-release starts with Rapid Fire, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is a better way to introduce this record.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think?
Well, I should have brought my own album with me. I didn't for some reason. I used to show stuff here. So,
Mhm.
because you people out there, we are on YouTube also, so you can watch our ugly faces if you want, and you can see
Mhm.
me holding up bits and pieces of every crazy shit that I come up with. Um, I don't know. I never thought about it like that. I think it's a strong opening. Um,
Mhm.
maybe,
But see,
maybe.
what's interesting too is that like who the fuck on earth does not know this song? I feel like everybody knows this song.
Oh yeah,
You know, I mean, I've mentioned this before on other songs, but you know, when my wife and I would go up to the college for parents' weekends, the kids
yeah,
would be playing, you know, all this old rock
mm,
and roll as they call it, right?
yeah,
And they'd be playing Breaking the Law and they would be, you know, headbanging and singing along to it. So it's not like
yeah,
they were just playing this for our benefit. They were playing it because they like it,
yeah,
you know? So it's not just knowing the song, but it's like pretty much everybody loves this song, knows this song. You
yeah,
know, it was on the Simpsons. I don't know if you saw
yeah.
that episode, the
Oh yeah,
infamous death
yeah,
metal. Judas Priest was death metal, and I
yeah.
thought it was hilarious. If you haven't seen
Oh,
it, it's this
oh my
I've
god.
only seen the clip. I haven't seen the whole episode, but basically, it's the police are trying to get this guy out of this building, and he's some kind of diplomat, I'm guessing. And so
Hmm.
they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna. There's only one way to get these guys out of a building, and that's to play death metal." And then they show this truck with Judas Priest on it, right? And it's Rob Halford, and he's singing "Respecting the Law, Respecting the Law."
I know.
And then you got the
It's
guy on the
so
inside that they're trying to get out, and he's just violently headbanging and they're all like, "You like this stuff?" And it's like, "Yes, us Swedes, we love death metal. It makes us think of death."
yeah. Oh my god.
It's fucking hilarious.
It
And
is. It
so
is.
yeah, I mean, it's an iconic song. So when you say it's a great way to start and kick off the record, I don't disagree with that. I just kind of like the way Rapid Fire kicks in. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's just the way that's a great way to introduce it, right?
Yeah. But I actually didn't think too much about it because I've been playing it back to back, and for some reason I forgot the order because my first initial thought was, what, dude, is it opening with Breaking the Law? No, that can't be right. So I looked it up, and in your neck of the woods, it is,
Yeah,
like you
there
said.
was a well, see, from what I
It's not the
understood.
real release. It's the US version.
Oh, I thought the US version was the open with Breaking the Law,
No, it's a
but it was a
UK version.
re-release later with some extra songs on it that had the different order. But
Yeah.
no, it is the US
Yeah,
release.
I'm
Oh,
sitting
okay.
here since I don't have the actual album with me. I had to look it up on Discogs, and the UK version of this starts with Rapid Fire.
Interesting.
It
Okay.
is. It is
See, so there you
interesting.
go.
Yes,
So Rapid Fire.
Rapid
Well,
Fire.
any takes on Breaking the Law before we move through?
Uh, I I mean, I remember seeing the video for this one. I mean, it was sort of like, damn, what the hell is going on? But bear in mind that people nowadays, maybe even me a bit, it's kind of cheesy, but still, I remember because back when I was growing up here in Sweden, we didn't have musical television. There wasn't a chance for us to watch bands play and move around, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
You only had your albums to listen to. So when MTV hit, it was sort of like, oh, the floodgate is open. Damn. I remember, uh, I mean, taping all the Headbangers Ball, and there was
Oh yeah.
Sky Channel in the UK. They had a Power Hour and so forth, and it was a metal show, and I was watching all those. I mean, the Iron Maiden's Trooper Run to the Hills,
Mhm.
and of course breaking the law with all those cheesy stuff that was going on. But so it was a big deal. So breaking the law for me is it's an iconic song.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah. There's not a lot to say about it because it's just so
no,
iconic and it's
yeah.
just everybody knows it, you know?
I'm
It's just
lost for
it's
words, I can tell you.
yeah, yeah.
It's fucking insane.
All right, rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
What do you think?
I It's classic. I it's classic Judas Priest. I think it's a good song. I'm more like this because I've listened to this so many times, and I don't think there there's not a bad song for me on this album. There is some. I mean, if we're talking about lesser good songs, I mean, maybe Rapid Fire is one of them. But no, it's still heavy,
It's
and
so
it's
good.
still. I don't know. I couldn't say that there is a bad song on this album.
I can, and we'll get
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
We will get to that.
All right.
But yeah, I think Judas Priest is an interesting band to me because they get this metal moniker,
Yeah.
right? But I think if you listen to their early 70s stuff, it's not metal.
No.
It's you could call it hard rock. I would call it rock, like some of the early stuff, Rockarola, even, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I feel like, once you start getting into the late 70s and obviously 80s, that's when
Hmm.
the metal came out. And I
Oh
think
yeah.
Rapid Fire is a song that kind of showcases that evolution. It's a little
Mm,
bit heavier. Um, Rob's vocals are a little bit different. I still wouldn't
yeah.
call it metal, but it's I think it's an example of hard rock and where they were going. It really showed the path of where they wanted to go with the music,
Yeah.
and how Rob's vocals adapted to that.
I
We
I
we
agree.
we all know Halford's a great vocalist, but he gets that for his high notes and being able to, but he's also got range, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
he's really like, I think this is a song that really teases what's to come
Hmm.
for Priest down the
Oh
road.
yeah.
And screaming for vengeance and stuff like that. It really kind of teases that really more heavy sound.
I agree.
And I love the way, speaking of metal, it just goes right into Metal Gods,
Yeah. Yeah.
and obviously where Halford, I'm guessing, got his nickname, and that whole, it just, it's got such a heavy riff, and listening to that beginning, you know, it makes me think of Birmingham in the
Mm.
old days with all the steam and the smoke and the sparks and everything.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. It was either somebody from Sabbath, Tony Iommi, or it could have been Rob Halford. They said like the music, I think it was for Sabbath, that whole Birmingham scene
Hmm.
really set the tone for the
Mm.
music.
I agree.
And I think it might have been Ozzy or Tony Iommi that said that. I can't remember, but you know, and I think that's true. And I think this song does that. I really like in my head. I'm thinking of like what's his name from Peaky Blinders walking down the street. You know, it's just kind of like
Yeah.
it just I get that vision in my head, like you
Yeah.
know, this walking all like badass and shit, right?
Yeah.
It's just it's a fucking
Yeah.
great song, and it's slightly it's got an anthem feel to it,
Yeah.
just slightly, right?
Yeah. And let's take a minute here and just the name of it all, and that Rob Halford adapted that title, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
But I don't know if he did it per se or we just named him. But nobody argued.
Nobody
Nobody
argued.
argued with it, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
He was and still is the metal god.
Yeah,
I mean, hands down, there is no. If you're talking about metal,
right.
then we got singers, man. We got Ronnie James Dio. So don't get me wrong, but the metal god for heavy metal music per se, I mean, for me, Dio is all over the place with Rainbow, with Black Sabbath, with his own band Dio, and so forth. But Rob, it's Judas Priest. He is the metal god,
See,
and nobody argues with that.
no,
It's
no,
it's my belief, though.
yeah. Well, see, Dio, his career was so expansive, right? He
Yeah.
covered a lot of different genres. He was so good. He didn't need a fucking title. He was just
No.
Dio.
No.
Dio was his fucking title, right? That's
It
how
was
it
his
was.
title.
It's just
Oh man,
Dio. It's
that's
like, oh, okay. You didn't have to say Ronnie James Dio. It was fucking Dio. That's it.
it was.
You know. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Nobody questioned it, and well,
No.
there are some people. Will I think we're going to talk about this a little later. They questioned it a little bit, but luckily that got fucking
Yeah.
stopped quick.
Yeah.
But but
But it,
yeah,
but it, yeah, it's a great song. It gets me all the time when I hear them play it live, and it's even heavier when you go see Priest live, and you
yeah,
hear that song, and you go, "Oh my god, jeez,
yeah, yeah.
fucking hell."
Uh, and next up, track
Mm-hmm.
4, Grinder.
Grinder,
Grinder. Man,
grinder, looking for me. I
yeah.
mean,
I
it's
mean,
epic.
the groove,
Yeah.
the groove that it starts with
Oh yeah.
Rob's vocals, and you know, I feel like you're really, when I was saying earlier about how they were just kind of a rock band,
Mm-hmm.
and rock bands back then, they had that really heavy blues influence, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
you can really hear that in this song
Yeah,
too.
and if you
Like,
listen to the first albums, it is like more bluesy rock music. So
mhm,
I think they transcended into this, but they took with them that part of the bluesy stuff that was like
mhm,
the essence of Priest in the beginning, and I
yeah,
think they did a really good job of keeping that in the music.
mhm.
And still, I think that you can hear it in their music, the
Oh
way
yeah, you
that
can't
they.
get away from that.
No, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
you can't. Yeah, it's once it's there, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like herpes; it just doesn't go away.
Oh, man.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes, I found it.
the
I
the the
also
the the the
Yeah,
the
oh,
the
yeah.
the bad
Mm.
song on
Oh,
the
yeah.
record.
Yeah.
This is a shit song.
It
United.
yeah. It
It's their failed attempt at an anthem song. It's shit. It's crap, and I'm embarrassed for Judas Priest that they have to live with themselves, knowing they put this out. Luckily, they're so iconic, it doesn't really matter, and we can just pretend it doesn't exist. But It's, I
I
mean,
just love how you there is no bones about it. It's sort of like it's shit. I fucking hate it. It's when we talk about like the Black Album,
yeah.
and people go, "Oh, I really dig that episode you did with the Black Album." Yeah, because Phil fucking hates that album, and I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
United, unite. No, come
Yeah,
on,
no,
Rob. Dude,
jeez,
you could do better.
yeah,
You guys could,
yeah.
yeah,
I
that
I
one that should have been like, mm-mm.
I have to look that up, but it strikes me as a song that they get forced to do from the record company. We need a hit song. We need something to rally about. It's when Kiss did Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day. When a reggae all night, party every day. It's a shit song, but it gets you every time you see Paul smash his fucking guitar. But it's United, United. No, no.
No, just no, man.
Jeez.
Just like, yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's sad. It's sad.
Moving along.
Moving
Moving.
along to a classic. We're talking about hit songs. Living After
Yes.
Midnight.
Oh my
Living After
god.
Midnight. I mean,
Damn.
what do you say?
It
What do you say?
it
Like,
it it's sort of like you did United because the record company wanted an anthem song, and you can hear Judas Priest go, "Fuck you. We're writing a hit song. It's called Living After Midnight."
yeah, yeah. This is how you fucking do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
It's
had to put that after United just to gain the
yeah.
trust back of the fans.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man.
Uh,
Jesus.
yeah, yeah. No, great song. Everybody, it's another one that everybody knows, everybody
Oh
headbangs
yeah.
to, everybody sings along to. It's just the way it is, man.
And this is also one of those songs when you hear it live, it's a completely different feel, at least for me, when you hear Living After Midnight
Yeah.
live. If you listen to the album, actually the Priest live album that was released in 1986, and you watch that, there is a video also, a pro shot video that they did where they got fireworks going off on stage before Living After Midnight starts, and you can hear and explode, and then they go bow down, bow down. I mean, it's
Just
fuck
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
It
is.
just, it doesn't, yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That's what
No,
it is.
no,
It's what it is.
that's what it is.
And then they back it up with "You don't have to be old to be wise."
Mhm.
I mean, another fucking classic.
It
At least
is.
the Priest fans. I feel like it, some would argue this is more of a deep cut, but I feel like for Priest fans that this is sort of another classic.
It
I mean,
is.
it's it's just it's you don't have to be old. Like it's just again,
Y-
it's bluesy, it's headbangy, it's just
yeah,
it's got and again, I was talking about Rob's vocal range, and I
yeah,
think this song, he's all over the place in this song. And I think it really, really shows his talent, that what he can do. He's not just all about the high notes, right?
no,
He can go all over the place and get that gravelly thing going on, and it just you
yeah.
know
I think for this album, I mean, from like when they started to be more heavy, you can hear, if you backtrack, you can hear where the sound changed
hmm
for Priest and for Rob's voice. And for me, British Steel is one of those albums where you can really hear uh where I think, because I remember Screaming for Vengeance had just been released when I discovered Judas Priest, so I had to backtrack to listen to the other albums. But you can hear, oh my god, when you go back to the early 70s, and you can hear the progression of the band and Rob's voice, and it it only gets better. It only gets better. I mean, it's fucking insane.
hmm yeah. Yeah. And then
Cool
and then
stuff.
and then we go into the rage.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of my favorite songs on this record.
Yeah.
I mean, the bass in the beginning and then how the drums kick in,
Yeah.
and you got this really this groove that just I don't know, man. There's something about this
Yeah.
groove that I just love, and then
Yeah.
how the guitar comes in, ding
Oh
ding
yeah.
ding
Yeah.
ding, ding, and
And the
it's
riff that goes along with that.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean yeah, and
Man.
and I listen to that, and it's like the way Rob sings this song. It's
Mm,
almost like an opera. It's
it
almost like
is.
he's telling a story as he's singing this.
Mm,
Not that it sounds like opera, but it's opera like in the sense that he's telling this big huge story, and it just seems larger than life. It comes off the record,
yeah.
into your ears. It just doesn't, you know what I mean? It's kind
Yeah.
of like that.
Yeah.
So, and I think, you'd know more about this than I do, but I feel like this song in particular is so well written and well structured,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
song
I think so too. I really dig the parts that both Glenn Tipton and Kiki Downing has on this album, and especially this song. It's the riff between them and the solos and
Mhm.
fucking hell, man. Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm getting all winded up here.
Yeah, yeah, you know
Damn.
what? God, I wish we could play this in the background,
Yeah.
but as we talk about it, because it'd be so much fun to do that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, last song, track
Mm-hmm.
9, Steeler.
Steeler. Yeah.
Steeler. Classic song,
Oh yeah.
Priest, it's
Yeah.
it's Priest. Again, like this whole record, I think it's a taste of what's to come. Now, I mentioned this a little bit or teased this a little bit earlier. I think the drums in this song come back around to Rapid Fire.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why another reason why I think Rapid Fire is a better opening to the record,
Yeah.
because this song kind of ends it and it sends you into this loop. Like, okay, now I just have no choice but to listen to this again.
Mm.
That's kind of the feel that I got from it.
Oh yeah.
Again, it's art, so
Oh,
everybody's
I
got their
totally agree.
own take on it. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel like for me that's kind of I don't know. I tend to hear weird things like, you and I's like, oh well, I hear this in this song, and you're like,
Mm.
what?
Yeah.
But we all have different ears, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
like that for me, that coming back around to the beginning, it's like, okay, we're not done. We're just going to start over and come
Mm-hmm.
back.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Again, this whole record we've said it's sort of a taste of what's to come, and I don't know. Maybe that's just a subliminal message to all of us fans. Get ready for the next one.
Yeah, but it's also a statement for Priest going into the 80s with the new wave of British heavy metal that was so successful, that you can hear the progression of the band. They tried it. I mean, they're not afraid to do stuff like this, keeping the bluesy stuff with the dual guitars for Kiki Downing and Glenn Tipton, and Rob's voice over that, and you can see it's almost I could imagine this. I was like too young when this album came out, so I didn't have that um experience listen to music that way, but you can almost hear where it was going, if you know what I
Hmm.
mean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's oh man, it's for me it's a piece of history also, a
Mm.
piece of history of heavy metal music, the British steel, where you set the tone. I mean, Priest coming out of Birmingham, like Sabbath, um doing it the way they wanted to do it, and Priest followed that, did the heavy metal like they wanted to do it. There was no blueprint. You have to do like this, but they did it because they felt like this is the way we're using twin guitars. We're keeping some of the bluesy parts, and the the creme de la creme, Rob Halford, with his fucking voice,
Hmm.
and as we said before, crowning him the metal god. Nobody can argue with that. Judas Priest, Brady Steele, I shit you not.
Mhm.
You see?
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
That's how it is.
But
But there's
but
always a but involved.
there is always a but involved. And but no, no pun intended here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But it's like this. I was listened to, because bear in mind, people, that we talked about this before when Phil said, well, not everybody thought that Rob was a metal god. Everybody knows that Rob is gay nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a big debate about this in the metal community. Oh my God, he's gay. I'm throwing out all my Judas Priest records. I mean, come on. What the fuck? Really? So I recently listened to a podcast on Swedish national radio that where they did a piece on Rob Halford, and they talked about Rob being gay and so forth, and not be able to go out public with this. He was so afraid of what people might think in the early 80s when Judas Priest was starting out. And when British Steel happened, they were able to tour the States for the first time. And there was big parties going on, and Rob had to like do interviews with people asking him about the leather and the studs and so forth. And he always thought, well, I try to be as open as I can without saying anything, but people didn't react to it because they only thought it was cool wearing leather and studs and so forth, whips and chains and everything else. And then there's the parties where the group is where he was constantly had to turn them down, all the offers from women, not be able to be the person that he was. And for people to say, when I found out that he was gay, um, I, I thought, well, okay, good for you that you are living the way that you want to live, and
Mm-hmm.
who cares? Judas Priest is Judas Priest. You are Rob Halford, for me, still the metal god.
Exactly.
I don't care. I don't
Exactly.
care
Mm-hmm.
at all about his sexual preference. I mean, and it's heartbreaking to hear this podcast because they found some old interviews of Rob where he tries to explain how hard it was for him, and it's so saddened to hear him talk about the hardship that he had to go through with this, keeping it a secret. Um, and it's he still prevailed,
Mm-hmm.
still did fabulous records, still delivered on stage, even though he was feeling like shit on the
Mm-hmm.
inside.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not a metal god, then I don't know what. I mean, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
And even to today, he doesn't talk about
No.
his love life at all. I mean, we hear about, Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee and all these guys, their love lives, and they're like so and so got divorced and all this stuff or got married.
Mm.
Like we hear about all this, but Rob's got to be like, "Yeah, I just got to keep it private,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of sad that he can't really share that with the world, you
Hmm.
know? I mean, personally, I don't give a shit about anybody's love life or anything like that. Like who people fuck is their business. I could give a
Yeah.
shit, right? It's not I could care less. But
Hmm.
I do feel like if he wanted to express that, I feel like he even today he feels like he can't,
Mm.
I mean, people got past it, and I feel like it's it's there. We all know it's there, but everybody wants to pretend it's not. And
Yeah.
I think that's sad because, you know, it's interesting because in the pop world, there are a lot of gay musicians, you know, lead singers. You got what's his name from Wham and all that,
George
and
Michael. Yeah.
George Michael, yeah,
Mhm.
and nobody gave a shit with that, which I find
No.
interesting. But
Elton
because
John.
it's Elton John, you
Mhm.
know, but for whatever reason, when it comes to metal, it's like, oh, okay, that's a
Mm.
bad thing. And I
Yeah.
guess there's people out there that think it was bad for George Michael and Elton John to be gay too, or bi, or whatever they are. Like it like who gives a I just I don't know. This is one of those things that just irritates me, especially
Oh
here
yeah.
in the United States, because we're so anti, you know, anti-gay. It's, you know, we have an entire state where you're not allowed to say gay. I think it's fucking ridiculous. It's you know, it's how people are, and the fact that you know, you think you're gonna go burn a record because the lead singer's gay when you had no clue before that and you enjoyed that and it didn't fucking matter at all to you. But the minute you fucking hear that now, oh, now this sucks.
Mhm. Yeah,
I
it's
just I don't
mind
understand
blowing.
that. I
I
can't.
no, me neither. It's fucked up. That's what it is. But
Yeah,
it is. I mean, there's no other way to put it. But it's fucked up. I mean,
yeah.
people that think like that. I mean, they should gonna go not around, man. Jesus Christ, what the hell?
Yeah, and then the thing is like Rob. I've never met Rob Halford, but I've seen him in these interviews he does with these podcasts,
Yeah.
and these are no name podcasts, and he gives like this is the metal god giving these no name podcasts his time, and it's not like okay, let's hurry up and get this done. He's like honestly having fun, chatting, laughing, you know, and it's like he doesn't want to go, but okay, we're gonna end the show anyway, and
Mm.
that's just a good dude. He just seems like a good dude,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, how do you hate somebody? Just I don't know. I don't get it. We got
No,
to move
me
on
neither. We gotta
because
move on.
I'm gonna get irritated and
Yeah.
yes. Anyway, so
Yes.
let's move on and talk about the differences in quality and sound quality between original pressings and re-releases.
Yeah.
So um so I think we've talked about this before, what an original pressing is,
Mhm.
but my question is like okay, so let's really down and dirty define what an original pressing is, because
Yeah.
is if the first pressing in the US and the
Mm.
first pressing in Sweden,
Mm.
are those both considered original pressings or just first pressing? Is there a difference between original and first?
Uh, Not necessarily, because if the record company, let's take Kiss as an example, because I know a lot about that stuff. If the record company would like send their lacquers to a printing plant in Sweden, it's the same record, if you know what I mean. It's the first pressing, but it's the first pressing in Sweden versus the first pressing in the US, but it's still an original pressing.
Because it uses the same lacquers.
Is Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
But for me as a collector, I want the album from the country where the band originates. So in my case, I want to chase all the US labeled US, made in US when it comes to Kiss.
Okay.
So, well, referring to the first run of vinyl records, which was manufactured and released on the label on the day as it's supposed to be with the artists. This is what we want to show the world, if you know what I mean. So, original pressing is it's from the master tapes of the album, which is created during the recording and mixing process. So, and you cut a lacquer from that, where if it's sort of like a stomper, if you know what I mean. So you got this different things from different variations of that copies. But the original one, if you send that out to different pressing plants, people, I mean, record companies in the US, like Kiss, for instance, they hit it big in 1975. And from that on, thereon, they had to ship lacquers here and there because they couldn't press all the albums in the US by themselves because it was like way too much records. But still, it's a first pressing and an original pressing, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so let's say you've got the U.S. pressing,
Yes.
and then in Sweden they do their own lacquer, their own
Yeah.
stamper, right?
Hmm.
So, but so that's not an original, but it's a
No.
first.
The,
Okay,
no, because the US version have to send their lacquers by mail, if you know what I mean.
right. I got, yeah. They physically
To
have to use
They have to
those.
physically use those lacquers or stompers that are created in the States. It's mainly because they couldn't, hadn't, I mean, pressing plants in the US in the 70s, everybody wanted to press an album. So they had to do a manufacturing in other countries to just keep up the demand, if you know what I mean.
Right.
It's
Now,
still the first pressing and an original pressing.
okay. So in the case where they don't have the original lacquers, the
Yes.
first lacquers, and they
Hmm.
do their own original pressing, first
Yeah.
pressing, how do those two sounds differ? Are they the same? Does it matter?
Well, then you come into to reissues or different pressings of an album. It's a bit complicated, but if you have, let's say you have a reissue of an album, a new pressing of a record that is released after the original pressing, you have, because those lacquers, they tend to run out. You can only do so many copies of that lacquer and then it's finished. So you have to cut a new lacquer, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And that could be um, done in like um, where you take that, if you're a pressing plant in Europe, you get the license to do that. As you do I mean, Casablanca Records, who owned Kiss's, it was Kiss's record label. They had to uh, uh, put license on stuff like that for the pressing plants or the different um, labels out in the rest of the world to be able to cut new variations of that lacquer. And then you're into the new pressings. So, for instance, if you go with Destroyer, I mean, you got like at least 10 or 12 different pressings of that album. At least, because it was such a high demand on that album. And for every new lacquer they cut, it's sort of like a new pressing, if you know what I mean. So it's not the original one. And depending on how much control the record company had, those reissues or new pressings could have variations on them, with the sound being much worse than
Hmm.
the
Okay.
original one, if you know what I mean.
So so during the process, so is there, like, what is the process of getting the to make the stamper that would affect the sound quality? Like,
It,
because if you mentioned like the record label having control, is it just how like deep the grooves are in the stamp, I'm guessing. Like
Yeah, yeah,
if they didn't make those as deep as they should have been or
yeah.
whatever, you're not gonna get as good a sound?
If if you want to do uh it, this is like a costly thing, and you don't want to, you just want to make money as a record company, you could, as some of the record companies do after a couple of years, they are remastering. It's called remastering the original one, which means that you cut new lacquers of that original mastering tape that you did from the get-go. So those are the real reissues as it was made from the first batch, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
But then you have to go in and redo the process of
Right.
that. Yeah. And yeah,
Oh, I just
go
so
ahead.
so when you get the remaster, like, hey, this has been remastered, re-released, and remastered.
Yes.
Is that all bullshit, or is that because they're going back to the original sort of it's as close you're going to get to the first original pressing?
Not necessarily. It's
Again, it
it's
goes back to the quality and
yeah, the original master tapes that was used to create the first pressing of an album are often used as not used for reissues. Instead, the record label would use a copy of the master tapes or a digital file to create a new pressing, because it's more cost efficient to do it like that, because you can print more copies of an album. But this, on the other hand, can result in a different sound quality. Now, with that being said, if an album like Kiss's Destroyer, which is turned gold like quadruple of times, the record company can say, okay, we need to do something here to keep it's flowing. Let's go back to the original master tapes, see if we can remaster it to do it like we did from the first one. And then
okay.
you're back to scratch again. So yes, you can do that process all over again, but it's costly, if you know what I mean.
Right. Now let me ask you a question, because a lot of
Yeah.
times on these remasters,
Hmm.
there's additional songs, either a live track or an unreleased song or something like that,
Yes.
which means that there's going to be more grooves on the record. Does that affect the quality?
No.
No.
I have to say no. I'm not 100% sure about this, but it shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
Um, it all depends on when that song was recorded.
Okay.
So no, I would say no, because if you remastered, you're doing the process, and then you can add a song into that uh, remastered process, like
So
you
so
did
the
for.
the more you put on there doesn't necessarily affect the sound, or does it at a
No,
certain
if
point?
you're using the original master tapes, that shouldn't be a problem, because
Okay.
you're just adding songs into that process, creating a new lacquer.
Gotcha.
So we have to. I mean, we have to do. I think we should call Soren on this, and have him go through this with a fine tooth comb, because
Yeah.
from my experience, that shouldn't be a problem. From my
Yeah,
experience, that
I
shouldn't
think
be a
it'd be
problem.
fun because he actually got to make a record, like,
Yeah,
physically was there and
yeah,
made in the factory
Yeah.
and whatnot. And I think it would be fun to have him come on and walk us through the process of how a vinyl record gets made. Yeah,
Yes.
how the stamper gets made, the lacquer gets made, and all that. Like walk us through and then see what's what. But yeah,
Yeah.
that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of talk about Japanese records sometimes having
Hmm.
a better quality than even some of the other, not necessarily original pressings, but other pressings. Is
Hmm.
that bullshit? Is that true? Is it just different, or why are Japanese versions pressings so sought after by collectors?
For me, it is. I find it thrilling that when you send over a lacquer to the UK or to Sweden or wherever, let's say the UK, then you can press like gazillions of records. Not, I'm
Hmm.
exaggerating, but you know, with that lacquer, you can do only so much. So if you say, let's say they have like 2 or 3 lacquers sent over to the UK because they know that it's on high demand, so they need to press like 1 million units.
Hmm.
In Japan, they are there are smaller pressing plants and they are more thorough. Not sure 100%, but in my experience, they took care of that process in a um, stress-free environment, if you know what I mean. Because the smaller pressing plants, uh, I mean, I got people around me going, "Nah, that's no different at all. What the hell are you talking about? Listen to the first U.S. pressing of Kiss First records and listen to the Japanese pressing. There's no difference." I beg to differ because I think it's a cleaner sound on the Japanese pressing. I think it's got more depth in it,
Mm.
and I think that you can, if you listen closely, this is we're we're down to the nitty gritty stuff. So if you're a beginner and listening to this podcast and just want a record to spin, go ahead, buy any copy that you like, as long as you like it and listen to it and enjoy it. The thing I'm talking about is going way deep, but listen to different pressings, comparing them. This is nerdy stuff, I know, but this is what we're talking about right now. So for me, it's in my opinion, these are mm, great sounding albums because of that smaller pressing plans, and they don't press that same amount of records like they do, for instance, in the US and the UK. So, in my opinion, those are not as worn down as the US and UK pressings.
So that makes me think of cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you grew up in the 70s and 80s like we
Yeah.
did, you
Mm-hmm.
you know about cassette tapes.
Oh yeah.
We all got blank tapes and recorded each other's stuff and all that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
those tapes have a shelf life to them, right? You can
Yeah.
only re-record over them so many times before this, actually it's really just the first time, and then after that the quality degrades over time.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily anything you necessarily hear audibly until maybe a certain point. Are the lacquers the same way, which then would make the Japanese better because before it gets to the point where it degrades, they're not doing that? So
Yeah.
is,
Um.
is it kind of like that
It is, and
in
that
concept? In
yeah,
concept.
in concept,
Okay.
because there is a difference with you and I recording an album on cassette tape that we did buy on a vinyl record.
Right.
If you buy an original copy from a band on cassette tape, it's a completely different ballgame, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But yes, I would
Okay.
say yes to that question.
So even if you get an original pressing,
Yep.
it may not be the best because you want the number one pressing off of that.
Yes.
Is there a way that we can know if that's the number one or no? There's really no way.
Oh yes.
Oh, there is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can go into. We talked about this before. There's a few things to look out for. One is on the label of the record. If we're, I give you an example again, yet again, Kiss, of course. There's a blue Casablanca label, and if you look for that blue Casablanca label, because they got a different ones with a yellow, and there is well, different ones. You can look them up. The original pressings will have a different label than the reissue. And another thing to look out for, it's the matrix number. We talked about it's the code that's etched into the runout groove on the album, on the record. So it's the area outside of the label. We talked about this. So if you hold it up into the light, you can see there is a number etched in the runout groove, and you can verify that number with the original pressing. So you have to look this up, and you can use Discogs for this.
Okay.
It's a great way to go. So you just log on Discogs, and you can use it as a mobile app on your phone, or you can use the web thingy. So then you have the matrix number, the code that it's etched in the runout groove, and you can compare those numbers to what's been etched in on the first pressing, and then oh, it's the same number on my album. So then it's the first pressing.
There you go.
Mhm.
There you go. So that's how you know. That's how
Yes,
you know
that's
which
yeah.
one
And
to
I
buy.
don't know if I'm clearer on this, because it's sort of like when stuff, stuff. And sometimes it's really hard to explain. So when people come into my store, I immediately take out an album, and I explain to especially younger people that just started to collect vinyl, and I talk about this, because then which copy? I mean, you got so many copies. There is a U.S. pressing, that got a U.K. pressing, a Canadian pressing, and you got a Mexican pressing. Which one should I choose? I mean, they're different in my opinion, but that one is cheaper. And then I always say, listen, we'll take them for a spin, and if you can, by only listening with your ears here in the store, if you can tell them apart, choose the one that you think sounds the best.
Mhm.
And usually they can't tell them apart. And then I said, well, you should go with the cheapest one, so you can buy more albums or
Yeah,
more
yeah,
records, because
yeah.
it doesn't matter for you. But if you hear the slightest difference in what I'm playing in these like 3 albums, you should go with the one that you think sounds the best,
Right,
because then your ears have evolved, and you can listen to music on vinyl record in a different way.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is all a hobby, and with a lot of hobbies, there's a learning curve, and
Oh yeah.
you have to learn stuff, and
Yo,
I
I
think
learn all the time myself. So
yeah, I mean, because I think you really just have to start at one place and maybe get some records that you like, get a good record player that has the good sounds you want, and then start looking into first pressings and okay, like what's my favorite band and what would I want a first pressing on, an original
mhm.
pressing, and that's kind of thing, and then kind of just keep going. And like you said last week, just go and when we're talking about buying vinyl, really just ask. Just
Oh yeah.
ask. because
Yeah.
anybody in this world is more than willing to help out and
Oh,
and
yeah.
set you on the right path,
Yeah.
so you don't get ripped off, and you can help learn and just start looking at the records you have, right? And
Mhm.
see, you look at the matrix numbers that are in there and look those up and see what you have.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you might already have some golden stuff in there that you didn't
Yeah.
realize.
And
I think
ask
that
as Phil said, ask questions. Ask me, as a owner of a record store or a nerdy dude. I mean, I ask people. I ask Soren all the time. He's been on here. He wrote a book all about vinyl, and he has done his research, and he's my go-to guy when I I can for the life of me think, what the hell kind of pressing is this? So
Mhm.
I tend to go to, because there is some albums are very, very small variations, and I go, I can't figure out, is this a 1? Is this a 7? What is this etched in here? So I ask Soren to help me out. So even I go to other people and ask
Right.
for help. So
Yeah.
if you need help, just hook me up on DM. If you're in Malmo, come to my store. I'm open on Thursdays between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. On Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm there. I will guide you through this as best as I can, and not make you buy high-end music for a shitload of money just because I want to make a buck. No,
See?
that's not the case at all. I just want people to enjoy vinyl records. And for me, it doesn't matter how much money you spend. If you don't have enough money, you should go and listen to the music only. Go with your heart, and the rest will take care of itself.
There you go.
There you go.
Great way to end the show right there.
Yes, I think
It's
so.
great way to end the show. And as always, thanks for listening to the show and all your support. We love it. We're going to be launching a brand new website if it's not out already.
Hmm.
Depends on when this show airs, but um, we are on a new programming schedule. We're coming out every 2 weeks now. So on Thursday still. So if you're listening to this at the right time, you could hop over to Mike's record store, right? You can
Yes,
listen to this as you go to Mike's record store, which is
there you
awesome.
go.
It's a lot of fun.
It
So
is.
with that, until next time, later.
Later.